As I strolled into my favorite country bar and grill, I made my way to a small table in the back and ordered a sandwich, fries, and a beer. While waiting, I tuned into the PBS channel playing on the TV, which was featuring a documentary on country music legends. The program had a bittersweet feel, recounting the lives of these stars, most of whom had passed away, though a few still remained. It struck me how many of them had come from poverty, having almost nothing to their names. As I munched on my meal, I looked up and saw my best friend Jake walking in with Sophia. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Sophia was supposed to be my girlfriend. I had invited her out tonight, but she told me she already had plans with friends and suggested we go out tomorrow instead. We had been dating for 6 months, spending nearly every weekend together. I was falling hard for her, and she said she felt the same. We even talked about getting engaged, though we agreed to wait a few more months. The show ended, and someone put on Crazy by Patsy Cline on the jukebox. I couldn't help but think about the lyrics. I knew you'd love me as long as you wanted, and then someday you'd leave me for somebody new. Was Jake that new guy? Jake knew how much Sophia meant to me, but it seemed our friendship didn't matter to him. I watched them act like a couple while the song played. Crazy for thinking that my love could hold you. I'm crazy for trying, and crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving you. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up and walked over to them. They looked at me, and Jake started to say something, but I cut him off. If I see you again, one of us is going to end up in the hospital. And you, Sophia, you've shown your true colors. We're done. I walked out of the bar. The next day, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Sophia kept calling, but I wasn't ready to talk. Later, Jake called, so I answered. What do you want, Jake? I snapped. Daniel, I'm really sorry. You know I've always found Sophia attractive, and while we were talking at work, I asked her out, and she agreed. Don't give me that crap, I shot back. You knew she was my girl and you went after her anyway. How many times have you been with her? Daniel, it was only… How many times, Jake? Don't lie to me. 3 times, Daniel. We've been together 3 times. We developed feelings for each other. I'm sorry. What about Chloe? Does she know you cheated on her? She deserves better than you. I don't want to see you again. As for Sophia, you two deserve each other. I hung up. Chloe was Jake's girlfriend, and all 3 of us worked at the same plant. There's a story about how we all met. The phone rang again, and it was Sophia. I decided to answer. What's up, Sophia? I want to apologize. Jake asked me out several times, and I finally agreed to go out with him once. It didn't mean anything. Cut the nonsense. Jake told me you were together at least 3 times. Was it the money? Good luck with that. You two deserve each other. Stay out of my life and stop calling. I grew up in Kentucky with 8 siblings, being the oldest. I played football in high school, and in my senior year, I got a scholarship to a college in Ohio. Standing at 6'3" and weighing 260 pounds, I played as an offensive lineman. My parents couldn't afford college, so I jumped at the scholarship. I wanted to be a mechanical engineer because I loved working with my hands. I was a bit reserved, but had a soft spot for the ladies. Growing up with sisters, I learned to treat women with respect. My mom always said to treat girls how I'd want my own sisters treated. At college, I became friends with a guy named Jake. He was sociable, though not the sporty type. He mentioned having some family money and pursuing a business management degree. When football wasn't occupying my time, we'd hang out. Jake had a way with the ladies, and we went to numerous parties. Despite my shyness, quite a few girls showed interest in me, thanks to Jake's influence. After graduation, I stayed in Ohio and got a job as a mechanical engineer at Ford Motor Company. The pay was good, and I found a small apartment near the plant. I also bought a late-model pickup truck. Every month, I sent $500 to my parents to help out. My dad worked as a coal miner, and we were a close-knit family. Jake got a job at a warehouse in the same city as the Ford plant, eventually becoming the warehouse manager. We'd hang out on weekends, and he told me about his girlfriend, Chloe, who was in charge of inventory control. He introduced me to Chloe, and I could have easily fallen for her, but Jake and I had a pact, no messing with each other's girls. I dated a couple of gals from my plant, but strictly as friends. Being around Chloe stirred up feelings, so I avoided double dates with Jake. Jake invited me to their plant's Christmas party, and since they were one of our suppliers, I agreed to go. At the party, I met a stunning gal named Sophia. Sophia had some serious curves and a great figure. She dressed more provocatively than Chloe and was quite the flirt. She told me she worked with Jake and Chloe, handling a secretary job for one of the higher-ups. I shared a bit about my job, and we spent the whole night dancing. We decided to meet up again, and even went out with Jake and Chloe for New Year's Eve. Chloe mentioned she was happy I found someone, but her sincerity seemed lacking. That night, I took Sophia back to my place, and let's just say she was quite impressive. The next morning, Sophia seemed surprised by my modest apartment. I explained that my job was relatively new, and I didn't need much since I was also sending money home to help my family. I told her that someday I might worry about material things, but not now. She asked about Jake's family wealth, and I confirmed it, mentioning they paid for his education. Our dating continued, and we hit the town almost every weekend. My feelings for Sophia were growing deeper, and she seemed to feel the same way. We did a lot together, and the bedroom was definitely a highlight. However, her flirtatious nature and constant talk about material things didn't sit well with me. I tried to reassure her that we could build a good life together. Still, when we went on double dates with Jake and Chloe, there was an odd tension I couldn't quite figure out. After about 6 months together, Sophia and I talked about our future, even the possibility of getting engaged. She said there was no rush. We went to a county fair, and I bought her a friendship ring from one of the budget jewelry stands. I told her it meant she was mine until she was ready for the next step. She smiled and slipped it on. By the way, I should mention that I hit the gym after work 3 days a week. I managed to drop down to 230 pounds and felt pretty good about myself. Then came that moment at the country bar and grill. Seeing Sophia with Jake, my best friend, really took a toll on me. After I saw them and had that phone conversation, I cut ties with both of them. I was mad as hell, but I also felt bad for Chloe. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. "Daniel, I'm so sorry about you and Sophia," Chloe said. "I figured she might mess up, but I never thought it'd be with Jake." "What's the deal, Chloe? Are you saying there were others?" I asked. "I saw her having lunch with her boss, Kevin. It seemed regular. I thought about telling you but didn't want to hurt you if I was wrong. Then I found out about her and Jake. I ditched him immediately and cut ties with both of them. It's tough seeing them at work, but I stay busy," she explained. "Thanks for reaching out, Chloe. I was worried about you. You're one of my closest friends. Maybe we can catch up sometime," I suggested. "I'd be up for that, Daniel. Good to chat with you," she replied. After our talk, I wasn't sure if I felt better or worse. A couple of weeks passed, and one evening while I was at the supermarket, I bumped into Chloe. "Hey, Daniel, nice to see you. How's everything going?" she asked. "Pretty good. And you? Back in the dating game?" I responded. She smiled. "I've turned down quite a few offers because I'm hoping someone special will call." "Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to ask if you'd like to." I started. "Yes, I'd love to go out with you. You're the one I've been hoping would ask," she interrupted. "So when and where should we meet? I need to know how to dress," she added. "I was thinking about Saturday, hitting up my favorite country bar and grill," I suggested. We said our goodbyes, and I confirmed I'd pick her up at 6. When I arrived at her place, she was dressed in a Western outfit, jeans, a vest, cowgirl hat, and boots. She looked fantastic. I opened the truck door, and she hopped in. Saturdays at the bar featured a country Western band and singer. We snagged a booth and ordered a couple of beers. The band wasn't starting for another hour, giving us time to chat. I was surprised to learn she was originally from Kentucky, just a county over from where I grew up. She went to college there, applied for jobs, and eventually landed a gig at the supply plant in Ohio. We placed our food order. I got a double bacon cheeseburger and fries, while she opted for a Reuben sandwich, and we shared the fries. It felt really nice to reconnect with her. She asked if this was the same bar where I caught Jake and Sophia. I confirmed it was, but I wasn't going to let a couple of cheaters ruin my favorite hangout. She just smiled in response. Once the band started playing, we got up to dance. They began with 2 slow songs, encouraging couples to the dance floor. Their playlist always included classic hits, just what the crowd wanted. They switched to a faster tune and we sat out. I told Chloe I wasn't much into fast dances, but enjoyed watching the women move. They played a couple of Roy Orbison tunes, and I've always had a soft spot for his music. After that, they performed a few songs by Loretta Lynn. Chloe and I took to the floor for the slow ones. The announcer called the ladies up for some line dancing, and a few guys joined in. "Why not join the line dancing?" I playfully asked Chloe. "You just want to check out my big ass," she teased, smiling as she got up to join the other women. The line dancing started, and I couldn't help but keep my eyes on Chloe. She looked right at me and gave her booty a little shake. I grinned and even clapped for her. After the song ended, she came over with a smile, and I leaned in to kiss her. Pulling back, I apologized. "I'm not sorry," she replied, kissing me again. We had a blast dancing and enjoying a few beers. Time flew by way too quickly. They announced the last song, and I held Chloe close as we swayed to the music. As the song ended, I leaned in and planted a kiss on her lips. I dropped Chloe off at her place and asked if she'd like to go out again the following Saturday. I suggested we visit Cedar Point, a popular amusement park in Ohio. She happily agreed, and we exchanged a goodnight kiss. Not wanting to rush things on our first date, I felt fantastic all week at work. On Friday, I called Chloe to confirm our plans for Saturday. She mentioned she had heard about Cedar Point, but had never been there before. Saturday morning, I picked her up, and we headed to the park. During the drive, we chatted, and I asked if she had mentioned our budding relationship to Jake or Sophia. She assured me she hadn't. We had an incredible day, riding all the roller coasters and trying out various attractions. The park had numerous shows that we enjoyed as well. On our way back, we decided to stop for dinner at a Texas roadhouse. By the time we got home, we were both exhausted. Chloe shared her place with a roommate named Rachel, a friendly lady in her 50s who worked at a retail store. Chloe valued Rachel's company, as they had a close bond, and Rachel treated her like family. I told Chloe I'd be out of town the upcoming weekend, but expressed my interest in seeing her the week after. She replied that I should give her a call once I returned. After sharing another kiss, I told her I genuinely cared for her. She responded by saying she had always liked me as well. When I got home, I immediately called Chloe, inviting her to a special dinner event my boss was hosting, an anniversary celebration for himself and his wife at the Hilton Hotel. I explained that I had booked a hotel room for the night due to the expected drinking and understood if she wasn't keen on attending. Her response was positive. "Daniel, I'd be thrilled to go with you. We won't need 2 beds, you know. I want you to know I'm falling in love with you. Just promise to be honest and not lead me on. I would never cause you any harm, and I'll make sure nobody else does either." "Chloe, could we use your car? I'd rather not show up at a fancy event in my truck," I asked. "Sure, we can take my car. I'll let Rachel know I won't be home that night," she agreed. I parked my truck at her place, and we opted to use her car for the event. We arrived early, intending to get ready at the hotel. During our ride, Chloe mentioned she was considering finding a new job due to her discomfort from regularly seeing Jake and Sophia. She even shared a rumor that Sophia might be pregnant. At the hotel, I got dressed in the bathroom wearing a tuxedo. When I emerged, Chloe looked stunning in a form-fitting blue dress that highlighted her figure, her hair cascading down to her shoulders. She had an elegant yet alluring presence. "You look absolutely gorgeous. I might not even care about the party itself," I remarked. "Oh no, you don't. I didn't go through all this effort just to change again," she said with a playful smile, and we headed downstairs to the party. Upon our arrival, my boss and his wife greeted us warmly. As they moved away, I noticed my boss stealing glances at Chloe. Knowing many of the attendees, I introduced Chloe to the people I knew. She received numerous compliments. We grabbed some drinks and found a table. The event had an array of appetizers with plans for a dinner later on. Chloe recognized a couple of women she knew from her role in inventory control. I approached the head of human resources, Susan, and initiated a conversation. "Susan, are there any job openings in inventory control or the supply chain?" "Actually, there is. Janice is retiring next month, and I've been tasked with finding her replacement. Do you have anyone in mind?" Susan responded. "Yes, my date tonight, Chloe, is looking for a new opportunity. She currently handles inventory control and is ready for a change," I explained. "Tell her to come see me on Monday and I'll schedule an interview for her. She's quite a striking woman," Susan replied. "Thank you, Susan. I really appreciate it," I said. "I'm sure you do," Susan chuckled. The party turned out to be a blast. I danced with the wives of some employees, and Chloe danced with their husbands. Most of the time, though, we danced together. The dinner spread was fantastic, offering roast beef, chicken, or shrimp along with all the trimmings. After a couple more drinks, We bid goodnight to the host and headed up to our hotel room. Chloe, are you absolutely certain about this? I don't want you to think I'm trying to take advantage of you, I said. Daniel, stop overthinking and just be with me, she replied. Helping her out of her dress, we neatly hung it up along with my tuxedo. We pulled down the covers on the bed and, well, I turned off the lights and we snuggled close, falling asleep together. The last words I heard before drifting off were, "I love you, Daniel." I woke up to the aroma of fresh coffee. Chloe had showered, gotten dressed, and brewed us each a cup. "Morning, Daniel. Sleep well?" she asked. "It's been a while," I responded. After a quick shower and a cup of coffee, Chloe and I headed down to the dining room for breakfast. We joined our fellow employees, many of whom we recognized, all smiling at us. "Seems like we're quite the pair now," I remarked to Chloe. Susan from HR stopped by our table on her way out and said to Chloe, "See you Monday," with a knowing smile. "What was that about?" Chloe asked, puzzled. "I forgot to tell you, but you have an interview with Susan on Monday at Ford," I said with a grin. "Remember you were thinking about a job change?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "Daniel, this feels like a dream. I love you so much," she whispered. On our way home, we talked about future plans. "Chloe, I know this might be a bit soon, but in 2 weeks, I'm visiting my parents in Kentucky. I'd love for you to come with me. I'll be leaving on Friday evening and returning Sunday. We can visit your parents too if you'd like." "I'd love to come, but just so you know, my parents are quite traditional. We might not be able to share a room," she warned. "I'm sure we'll figure it out," I reassured her. 2 weeks later, we set off for Kentucky. Chloe mentioned a new rumor about Jake and Sophia planning to get married next month because Sophia was visibly pregnant. "I bet Sophia thinks she's marrying into wealth, but she's in for a surprise. It's Jake's parents who have the money, not him. He lives on debt and appearances," I said. When we arrived at my parents' farmhouse, we were greeted by a charming, spacious home with plenty of rooms. My younger siblings came out to welcome us, followed by my mom and dad. I hugged everyone and introduced Chloe, who received a warm reception. We spent hours catching up. Chloe seemed particularly moved by a photo of me in my high school football uniform. "Is everything okay?" I asked, noticing tears in her eyes. "Do you remember a football game at Grayling? After the match, you saw 2 guys dragging a girl in a yellow sweater into the tunnel. You stepped in, threw one guy down, and tackled the other. You told them to never bother her again and walked off. Do you remember that?" she asked. "Yeah, I remember, but I never told anyone." "How do you know about that?" I was confused. "Daniel, I was that girl. I never saw your face, just the number 67 on your jersey. I tried to find you but only managed to learn your name was Daniel. I was waiting for a friend when those guys grabbed me. You showed up and saved me. They never bothered me again," she explained, leaning in to kiss me. "Meeting you again felt like destiny. That's the only good thing Jake ever did, introduce us." My mom had prepared a bed for Chloe and told me I could sleep in the basement where there was an extra bed. Around 1 in the morning, Chloe quietly joined me. We shared a tender moment despite the circumstances, and she returned to her bed about an hour later. On Saturday, we visited Chloe's family. I hadn't realized they were so well off. Their home was lovely, and Chloe had 2 younger sisters who were quite attractive. She introduced me as her boyfriend, and I overheard Erin, one of her sisters, remark to Chloe that I was quite handsome. Inside, we chatted for a while. Adam, her father, asked about my job and background, clearly protective of his little girl. "Mr. Bennett, I'd like to talk to you about marrying your daughter. I'm here to ask for your blessing," I said, catching everyone off guard. Chloe hadn't expected this, and her eyes filled with tears. "Even though we haven't been together long, our love is strong, and we want to build a life together," I continued. "Daniel, I respect you for coming to me. You didn't have to. Chloe, do you love him?" her father asked. "Yes, Daddy, with all my heart," she replied. "Then you have my blessing on one condition. You 2 must get married here in Kentucky so your mom and I can give you a proper wedding. We'll cover the costs," he said. I surprised everyone by pulling out an engagement ring and getting down on one knee. Chloe said yes, kissed me, and then hugged her dad and mom, who were in tears. We celebrated with a fantastic chicken dinner. Back at my parents' house, we updated the Bennetts on our plans. When we shared the news of our engagement with my family, they were thrilled. Many of my relatives who lived nearby came over for a barbecue to celebrate. Dad proudly took charge of the grill while Mom busied herself in the kitchen. preparing all the dishes. Chloe, eager to help, joined Mom in the kitchen, mentioning that she loved cooking too. All my relatives came by to greet us and get to know Chloe. She was the first woman I'd brought home to meet the family, and they all assured me she was a keeper, encouraging me to make her happy. After a lively day filled with celebration, we said our goodbyes to the relatives, promising to keep them updated on our wedding plans. Just before heading to bed, Chloe whispered to me about a little mishap. Apparently, she had accidentally kicked a pair of shoes down the stairs. She tried to apologize, but Mom just laughed it off, saying she had been young once too, and that Chloe's lively spirit was probably why she ended up with so many kids. Chloe came back downstairs later, and we shared a quiet, intimate moment together, trying to keep things discreet. She didn't head back upstairs until nearly 5 in the morning. After a night of closeness, we finally drifted off to sleep. In the morning, Mom and Chloe exchanged knowing smiles as we all enjoyed a hearty country breakfast. We hugged and kissed everyone goodbye before making our way home. On Monday, Chloe had her interview with the HR department at Ford. By Tuesday, she received a call from Susan, confirming she got the job and could submit her 2-week notice. Excited, she called me to share the news, but I was already in the loop. We decided to celebrate with dinner at my favorite country bar that evening. As we enjoyed our steak dinners, Chloe mentioned that Jake and Sophia were on vacation, and next week, they were heading to Las Vegas to get married. She remarked that these were the best 2 weeks she'd had at work, not having to deal with them. She added that while everyone was sad to see her leave, they understood she was moving on to a better opportunity. Working at Ford meant having one of the highest-paying jobs in the area, and Chloe felt fortunate to have secured both the interview and the job offer. She revealed that she had left an anonymous note on Jake's desk before departing, suggesting he consider a DNA test once the baby was born, given Sophia's frequent lunches with her boss. She kept our engagement a secret from everyone at work, but proudly showed off her ring whenever anyone approached her. Chloe and Rachel, her roommate, started planning the wedding. Rachel, who had a married daughter of her own, had become a close friend and guardian to Chloe. I made it a point to drop by a couple of times each week to help out wherever needed. I reached out to my mom, asking for a list of relatives and friends to invite. Mom went above and beyond, buying invitations and handling the invites for us. I provided her with the wedding date, set for 4 months down the line. Chloe spoke to her mom, who shared the wedding date with her side of the family. Her parents took charge of finding a suitable church and a spacious venue for the reception. Her mom also took on the responsibility of sending out their family's invitations. With her dad's business background, he had numerous connections and clients. Despite my anxiety, I realized I was contributing the least. I invited several colleagues at work, and to my surprise, many expressed their intention to attend, even though the wedding would be in Kentucky. Thanks to Rachel's connections at the retail store, she arranged for a dressmaker to create Chloe's wedding gown. Rachel and her daughter also confirmed they'd be at the event. Grace, Chloe's mother, called to inform us that she had secured a caterer, but needed a head count closer to the wedding date. She also mentioned that Adam had booked a talented band. I asked Chloe if she thought we were going overboard with the preparations, as it was clear this wedding would be quite costly. "Daniel, this grand wedding is my parents' dream. They've envisioned this since we were little girls. Trust me, my sisters will have similarly lavish weddings," she explained. "Why didn't you tell me about your family's wealth?" I asked, curious. "I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for my family's money. Only Rachel knows about this, not even Jake." "Does this change anything for you?" she asked. "No, I love you for you, not for anything else. If you'd like, I'm willing to sign a prenuptial agreement," I offered. "Daniel, there's no need for a prenup. I believe we'll be together forever. Besides, I don't have much now. Maybe in the future through inheritance, but not now. I'll have a loving husband to support me," she reassured me. Chloe sorted out her wedding party. Her father would walk her down the aisle, her older sister would be the maid of honor, and her younger sister would be a bridesmaid. She also invited my 2 married sisters to be bridesmaids. My brothers-in-law would be groomsmen, and my single brothers would pair with her sisters. My younger brother would be my best man, and my niece and nephew would be the flower girl and ring bearer. We reached out to everyone, and they gladly accepted. It truly became a family affair. Chloe thrived in her new job and was well liked by her colleagues. However, she faced a dilemma since she hadn't accrued any vacation days yet. We brainstormed and decided on a whirlwind plan. Head to Kentucky on Friday night, get married on Saturday, and return on Sunday. It was our best option, given the circumstances. The plant manager called me into his office one afternoon. We had a good rapport, and he had even mentioned that he planned to attend the wedding. "Hey Daniel, I heard you're having some trouble with the wedding schedule. Susan mentioned you're leaving on Friday, getting married on Saturday, and coming back on Sunday. Is that right?" "Yeah, Brian, that's the plan. Chloe doesn't have any vacation days left." "Well, Daniel, make sure to tell your lovely fiancée that we're granting her some personal time off starting Thursday, extending through the next week. And I've got 2 tickets for a 4-day cruise as a honeymoon gift." "Thanks, Brian. She's going to be thrilled," I said, shaking his hand. Excited, I called Chloe and asked her to meet me for lunch. When we sat down at the restaurant, she looked curious. "What's this important thing you want to discuss, Daniel?" "Brian called me into his office and informed me that you've been granted time off from Thursday through the entire following week. We don't have to rush. And there's more. He gave us 2 tickets for a 4-day cruise as a wedding gift." I placed the tickets on the table. Chloe's eyes filled with tears. With everything ready for the wedding, knowing we had extra time was a huge relief. Now we could head down on Thursday, making everything simpler. The rehearsal and dinner were set for Friday. I checked with Dad if he needed money, and he shared that he had saved the money I sent him since we announced the wedding. I really admired and respected that man. After the dinner, I kissed Chloe and told her I'd see her the next day. Chloe had informed her mom about the number of guests attending both the wedding and the reception, but she didn't tell me the count, saying I was already nervous enough. I knew all my siblings, aunts, uncles, and their families would be there. I heard the motels in both counties had been fully booked for months, and hoped our guests had found accommodations. Saturday morning, Mom insisted I have breakfast, reminding me I couldn't go through the whole day on an empty stomach, especially with all my nerves. During breakfast, Mom mentioned they had met the Bennetts and found them to be very friendly and respectful. After breakfast, I took a long shower, shaved, and got dressed in my white tuxedo to match Chloe's dress. My brothers, also part of the wedding party, wore black tuxedos. It was time to head to the church, which was 20 miles away in the neighboring county. The church was quite large, capable of holding over 600 people. As guests began to arrive, my brothers and I helped them find their seats. They said I didn't have to assist, but I insisted on being involved. Rachel and her daughter arrived, and I directed them to sit with Chloe's family. I was happy to see many of my co-workers, including my boss Brian and his wife, who had flown in for the occasion. I was then instructed to go to the front of the church because Chloe's limousine had arrived, and I wasn't supposed to see her before the ceremony. I chatted with my parents briefly before the wedding began. A woman started playing music on the organ, and after a couple of songs, an announcement was made for guests to take their seats. Every wedding has its unique touches. I walked to the front and stood beside the minister. Aaron, accompanied by my brother, was the first to walk down the aisle. They made a great-looking pair and took their positions at the front. Next was Julia, escorted by my other single brother. After that, my married brothers walked down with their wives. One of my nephews then came down as the ring bearer, though I held the actual wedding ring in my pocket. 2 men rolled out a white cloth, and my niece strolled down the aisle scattering rose petals. The music shifted, and everyone stood up as the wedding march began. Chloe appeared, making her way down the aisle escorted by her very proud father. She looked incredibly beautiful, like an angel, and I felt tears streaming down my face. "Who presents this woman to this man?" the minister asked. "Her mother and I do," her father replied. We exchanged our vows, and I placed the ring on her finger. Then, I was given the go-ahead to kiss the bride, which I did enthusiastically. "Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Walker," the minister announced. Everyone rose to their feet and cheered. We stood at the church door with the other members of the wedding party, expressing our gratitude to everyone who attended. It took over 30 minutes for the church to clear out. Afterward, everyone headed over to the rented hall. When we arrived, there were drinks and appetizers available, and a band was playing, though not many were dancing yet. Tables were arranged all around, and upon our entrance, the entire crowd stood up and cheered for us. Mr. Bennett said a few words and announced that the food was ready. The serving tables were set up on both sides, ensuring everyone got their food quickly. Although Chloe and I were served first, we probably finished eating last, as we kept pausing to kiss every 10 seconds in response to the glass clinking. Some tables were moved back to create more space for dancing. Chloe and I were the first to hit the dance floor, followed by the rest of the wedding party, and then everyone joined in. The reception carried on for a solid 4 hours, with some guests even helping themselves to another round of food. It truly was a fantastic night. Epilogue. We had an amazing time on our cruise. It was a good decision to bring my truck to the wedding. I rented a small U-Haul and loaded it up with all the gifts we received. When we returned home, we started looking for a new house and eventually found a nice 3-bedroom home with a hot tub. Initially, we spent a couple of weeks in my small apartment, but Chloe felt we needed something more spacious. We decided to leave the gifts at Rachel's house since we wouldn't be living there. We checked if she could manage on her own, and she assured us she was fine. She simply enjoyed taking care of Chloe, but now that responsibility was shared with me. Every evening, we worked on writing thank you cards. I believe we're almost finished with that now. We also have lunch together at work around 3 times a week. It's been 3 months since the wedding, and things are going really well. We haven't had any arguments, and we always discuss and resolve any differences. We've always been told that communication is key, and we actively practice it. Chloe mentioned that one of her friends from another workplace called her. Sophia discovered that Jake is in financial trouble with a lot of debt. There was also a rumor that someone advised Jake to consider a DNA test when Sophia has the baby. They're uncertain about the source of that information. A few weeks later, Chloe received another call informing her about more issues with Jake and Sophia. It turns out Jake took a DNA test and it confirmed that he wasn't the father. Isn't that just wild?